Hello, Mr. Investor. You have been interested in the home renovation and the entertainment content industry. I am a finance expert, Santiago Rodriguez, and I'm going to help you understand what drives these industries so you can make a much better decision about your buy. So, to begin with, we're going to talk about the home improvement industry. We will look at companies that rely heavily or it's 100% this sector. So we can have a clear idea of how this industry works. The companies are Stanley Black & Decker, Armstrong World Industries Incorporated, Whirlpool Corporation, Mohawk Industries Incorporated, Fortune Brands Home and Securities Incorporated, Scott Miracle-Gro Company, and American Woodmark Corporation. Oh, and Central Garden and Pet Company. So, as you can see, in these companies' enterprise value, there are different sizes in the sample. So we have a more accurate idea of how the industry really works. So to begin, we were going to talk about the liquidity. The current ratio shows that in average, these companies' assets cover twice its obligation. It's important to know that the smallest two companies' ratio is above average. This is Central Pet and Gardening and American Woodmark. The quick ratio of this industry shows us inventory represents half of its assets. We see again smallest companies cover or have a higher ratio. And finally, the cash ratio in the industry tells us the industry can only cover half of its obligations with the cash on hand, which is the other half, with the other half being receivables. And we see a small company cashing up, maybe getting ready for a big purchase or preparing for a slowdown. So now we gotta look at the long-term debt, or like the promises that this industry has made, or the companies in this industry have made. So first we can see that on average all companies increasing debt. Debt among companies was different since 2013, but it's becoming like unified. Scott Miracle-Gro has been acquiring more debt than the average company, and American Woodmark was below the average. In 17, it started to cut up, and finally the relationship of Cent to is inverse to the industry. The amount of equity to debt shows across a previous measure of a larger scale. We see average of 100 times the amount of debt to equity, but the amount which SMG is above the industry and Cent is an inverse relationship again. Interestingly, the largest companies keep a steady debt to equity. Now the leverage is different. There are two groups. There's the companies that are increasing, and then there's the companies that are steady. SMG is the highest growth with 5 times its equity, and American Woodmark is the lowest, almost reaching 1. Now we need to see if the companies can pay for their debt. The industry average of interest coverage shows a weird behavior thanks to a spike in 2016 by Armstrong World Industries. We can see most companies retain stable coverage over time. SMG and Whirlpool seem to be increasing the coverage over the past years. Fortune Brands and Mohawk show a decline. The average behavior of these companies is also, these two companies is also different than the rest. Aside from the mentioned spike, cash coverage shows the same behavior as times interest. We can see most companies retain a steady cash coverage across time, aside from Mohawk, which rose significantly in 16 and 17, and then Fortune Home Security, which significantly decreased over time to meet the average coverage of the industry. Without including the capital expenditure, their coverage increases almost 20% across all companies for this measure. Now let's look at the most important measure, the return on equity. This industry has around like a 20% return on equity, but there are some companies that stretch the average. Black & Decker show no growth. Armstrong World and Cent have a consistent increase, although Armstrong has the more significant one. SMG has some drastic changes up and down over the period, as Whirlpool does, but Whirlpool did go to zero. But it's important to know what's driving the numbers. Whirlpool had a massive tax incentive, and it is Armstrong World received another tax incentive in 15, but it's stabilizing. Average taxes don't seem to drive the profit margin. There are industries incepting and see historical tax. It fluctuates in the same range. Interests are also at the lower end of the coverage across the industry. Aside from Whirlpool, which seems to be struggling, Cent, on the other hand, has had risen rapidly to meet the industry since 2013. Operations seems to take up 10% earning on average, and it has been increasing slightly over time, reduced in the last year. Whirlpool, as we mentioned, slowing down, while Cent rises to meet the industry. American Woodmark, Armstrong, and Cent have shown big increases in operating margin. Armstrong World, however, has had the highest company, almost twice of every. Asset efficiency is very different for each company. Most stay steady across time. There are some with different movement across time. As we can see, SMG has slowed down their asset efficiency like Armstrong World, although SMG still has much higher efficiency than the rest, and Armstrong is not as big. Woodmark over the past period is been higher than Cent, although Cent on average has more efficiency over time. The financial leverage, as we mentioned, has two steps. Is one, some companies are going up, some companies are staying steady. SMG, again, highest growth, 5 times debt to equity, and American Woodmark is the lower, with almost liquid. Lastly, we look at the market and what it says about the industry. On average, the PE ratio is between 20 and 25. The market sees a future in the industry, although it has a gradual decline over the period. However, it looks like the past year it's been spiking. American Woodmark has had the slowest decline and a PE ratio of 20, and the highest at the end of the period, which could mean the rise across the industry. The market to book ratio looks steady across companies, with slightly decline in 2018. Market valuation has been twice and 4 times the accountant's price, signaling steady industry. Only SMG and Armstrong have risen drastically above the average, although SMG experienced rapid decline in the last year. It's still 7 times what the accountants value the company for. Armstrong World is the highest valued enterprise, 14 times what the accountant said. The economic value added shows us again how the risk is with this industry. We can see it enjoyed again from 15 to 16 and then back to the loss. It's important to notice that Whirlpool has taken out due to its fluctuations. This company seems to be struggling. Similarly to Black & Decken, which is economic value added like plummeted at the end of the period. For this econ industry, we are analyzing the entertainment content industry. For this sample, we chose companies that relied at least 90% on this sector alone. The companies are as follows: Viacom, Lionsgate Entertainment, Discovery Incorporated, CBS Corporation, AMC Network Incorporated, and AMC Network Incorporated. The liquidity of this industry is similar to the home improvement. The current ratio average 1.5. Half of those assets is inventory, and then half of those is cash. We also see Discovery had asset influx in 2017 that pulled the industry average that year. We can also see that barely increase over time of CBS and CBS has the highest ratio in the industry. When we take out the inventory, it's similar. Viacom has been reducing its liquidity over time to meet CBS ratio, which leads the industry. And finally, the quick ratio shows us a spike in Discovery is in fact a cash influx. Also, the industry, aside from Viacom, other companies have similar cash ratio, and coincidentally, all industries ratio meet at the end of the period. The industry seems to have twice the debt as the assets as the home improvement industry. Most of the company in this industry maintain steady ratios across time, but Viacom has gradually declined its debt. Discovery maintains the highest debt to assets, twice the industry average. CVS has been increasing its debt steadily, almost twice since the beginning of the period. The industry debt to equity increased slowly over the period. AMC seems to have increased this ratio drastically from 14 and declined in 16, perhaps due to low equity. All companies reported similar debt to equity at the end of the period, except AMC, which was higher. The equity multiplier presents similar behavior as debt to assets. It is also very close to average equity multiplier for home improvement industry. We also see AMC spike due to the fact of the lack of equity, which they fixed in 2018 because it seems to pair up with the industry. After AMC, CVS has the highest ratio. The industry average cash coverage is 4 times, and it shows slow decrease in cash coverage in the last year. CVS has actually spiked its coverage more than double compared to the industry. Lionsgate is the only company that is like barely making its commitments. Capital expenditure does not affect debt coverage much, since the behavior looks similar across periods. Debt coverage among industries is still the same, similar. This industry has return on investment that is double the home improvement industry, and in the later years it has spiked drastically. However, the spike is driven by CVS and AMC. Lionsgate, on the other hand, looks like its return on equity is out to give negative returns. Viacom is also being shown steady slow decline. Now let's see what's driving the return on investment. We see the tax burden seems steady across the companies except Discovery, who receive a big refund. Lionsgate also has taken the curve. It failed to pay taxes in 2016, and then it got a refund in 2018. So it's something to compare these companies. It looks like interest also plays a big role in these companies because it also shows major fluctuations. Although Discovery has recovered in the past year without the changes pulling the average, we see a more steady movement across time. Viacom again is lowering its burden, and at this point interest is similar to home improvement industry. Operating margin is almost 4 times the average amount of the home improvement industry. However, it looks like declining Lionsgate operating margin on its way below average and is close to home improvement industry. At the end of the period, almost all margin of all operations from the companies meet at 20%, and AMC is above them all. Asset efficiency in this industry is not as high as home improvement. Lionsgate efficiency has been in complete decline. Aside from that, the industry remains on steady level of asset efficiency. Discovery is below average. CVS had significant increase in asset efficiency in the past 5 years and is the leader at the end of the period. The equity multiplier presents similar behavior as debt to assets. And it's also the equity multiplier of home improvement industry. We see AMC spike in the fact that again they had little equity, but they've been getting more equity since 2018 to match to the industry. Again, CVS and AMC have the highest ratio. So now how are these industries valuated? Well, on average, the PE ratio is lower than the home improvement industry. Lionsgate has the highest ratio due to the low earnings. Without the PE ratio of the industry, looks like it's starting to pick up after a slump, and investors, I guess, are beginning to see a future in their industry. Market valuation shows a large negative book to value for AMC Entertainment during 15 and 16. Without those drastic fluctuations, we can see that the market valuation in the industry slowly meeting the book valuation. CVS had a spike in 17, but it returned to its decline, and it looks like the future doesn't look like there's a lot of future here. However, the economic value of most of these companies have actually grown steadily for the 3 years, which is a good sign for investors that the companies generate value. Lionsgate is the only one that is making below value risk. These two industries are very different, starting with the size. In this enterprise value comparison of the averages, you can see that the entertainment industry is like has always a higher valuation than the average home improvement. Another differentiation that caught my eye is the operating margin of the industry. Content is much higher than the home improvement industry, but the home improvement industry is much more efficient managing its assets. I think that is what makes the return on investment higher for the entertainment industry, because it doesn't rely as much on asset efficiency, so it's more risky. The market sees more future in the home improvement industry. I recommend you to pick a stock from this sector, which is much more secure and is have higher expectations. Based on the performance of each company, I say SMG would be my preferred pick. This stock has performed efficiently in the past years, has generated more profit margin than any of its competitors, and it's been accumulating more debt, although it has always been able to cover its debt. And I also like this because it's not just relying on the home entertainment, the home. Another reason I like SMG is because they are, although they're part of the home improvement industry, they are the only leader in the lawn and garden maintenance. The second one is Scent, which only accounts for 40% of its operations. So SMG is basically uncontended as a major retailer in lawn and gardening, and that's another reason that I suggest that you look into this stock. I hope that I clarify all your doubts, and let me know if you have any questions. I hope I helped you.